right. I think we're live. Hey, thanks for watching Four Color Commentary. I'm Mark Allen, and it's late night with Mark Allen. Well, there goes my microphone. We're off to a great start. Late night with Mark Allen on Four Color Commentary, and thought I'd do a little live stream and kind of go over a couple of things. Got a great comic book haul to $1.50 haul to go over and share with you guys. And also just wanted to talk about the Fantastic Four movie. My youngest son and I saw the Fantastic Four movie and we liked it. And I'm going to talk about that just a little bit. Let me see here. I want to make sure that I am okay. Pardon me. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure that I'm moving here the way I'm supposed to. And I want to be sure that I'm on. Okay. I just don't do this live stream thing enough. And I should do it more. Okay. Well, I was checking on my phone, make sure I don't trust what's right in front of me. I have to check another form of viewing and make sure that I'm on. Okay. So anyway, Fantastic Four movie. Here we go. We live in a very political world. You're like, wow, Mark, thanks. You told me something I didn't know. Well, this is a very political world and it's affecting everything these days. Now, I don't know if I've ever shared this. I think I have, but I was originally in college. My college education was for mass communications. I was going to be in news and politics. Thankfully, that is not how things ended up for me. I ended up in the ministry. God called me to the ministry, and I'm going somewhere with all of this. You all know, people who watch this channel know my. I don't talk politics on this channel, and I never will. But you can guess my political leanings. I'm a Baptist minister in Oklahoma. I've mentioned before that we homeschooled our kids. I have tipped my hat before to law enforcement and to all first responders. I've actually on a couple of occasions worn my chaplain's hat and everything. So, I mean, you guys know, and I don't have to talk politics for you to know where I come down on. So that having been said, let me say this. The Fantastic Four movie was fantastic. It was great. It was, and it was something that, a lot of, there are people on YouTube, God bless them. Hey, there are channels on YouTube that are both comic centric and political, that are movie centric and nerd centric and political. Great. Let them do that. I will let them do that. I'm not going to do that. But that's not what I want this channel to be. But having said that, good evening, Bulldog. It's good to see you. I think they've been really hard on the Fantastic Four movie because they don't like certain things or certain, things that actors and actresses have said or been a part of. The Fantastic Four movie itself, and you've got to be able to I think separate the actor and their political leanings and their beliefs. You got to be able to separate that from the character they play. And that's what my son and I did. And we enjoyed it. We loved the Fantastic Four movie better than Superman. Now, we liked Superman, and you heard what I said, and I'm glad I haven't gotten any kickback on this. I said the Superman movie hit like a really slick, really good fan-made movie. And it did. And that was not a knock because it was just kind of bright and lighthearted, even though it had its tension and its danger and its action, but it was what I think a superhero movie needs to be, and certainly what a Superman movie needed to be. But the Fantastic Four movie was a love letter to fans. You had Shala Ball, Silver Surfer notwithstanding, it made it very, very clear. First of all, at the beginning of the movie, and if you don't want spoilers, you may not want to be here. In fact, I'll just say you don't want to be here. But at the very beginning of the movie, they made it very clear that this was not the mainstream Marvel Cinematic Universe, so to speak. This was not the same universe as the Avengers and Spider-Man and all of those are in. This was a different universe. It gave the universe number. I think it was 868 or something like that. But you had the characters, the Fantastic Four characters were just, they were exactly who they were supposed to be. They were exactly who they were in the comics, the best versions of themselves, I think. Ben Grimm, even though he was completely CGI, I liked him. I liked the character. Now I'll admit, I missed a little bit. I missed the makeup and the outfit of Michael Chiklis wore as the Thing. That made the Thing even more personable. But they did the best job they could have done, I think, on the CGI Thing. And within the movie, also as a tip of the hat to the mole creature, Mole Man's gigantic creature from X-Men from Fantastic Four #1, and it was just great. It was a great movie, and like I said, a love letter to fans. There was even, and again, spoilers ahead. They even made it was a main point of the movie that Sue's unborn child, and within the movie, born as well. I mean, he was unborn, then he was here, and so we saw the child. Franklin has cosmic powers. He was identified before he was even born as having cosmic powers. So I'm glad you enjoyed it too, Bulldog. It was just a great movie. It was a lot of fun. This was the most fun I've had in a superhero movie in a theater since Endgame. And so just great stuff. I recommend it wholeheartedly. It was just a lot of fun. It's nice to be able to go into the movies again and be able just to enjoy and not deep sigh and think, why'd they do that or why'd this person say this, and so I liked it. I enjoyed it. They did reference like Bulldog is saying here, they did reference the Red Ghost and Puppet Master and Mad Thinker and Wizard, but we never get to see them, but they're there. Okay. They're established when they reference them like that, they're established. And Mole Man, at first I was kind of, they didn't treat the Mole Man very seriously, but at the same time, the Mole Man actually, most of the time you see him, he's above ground. He doesn't have his creatures. He's not a threat without his creatures and without his tech underground, and then without, and so he was actually quite funny. And so I could see the Mole Man being that way above ground, but then if he gets back underneath there with his creatures and stuff, he's dangerous. So Fantastic Four was great. I loved it. I enjoyed it. All right. Okay, let's get to some comics because I have grabbed a few in the last couple of weeks. First of all, anytime I can get get an old Overstreet price guide, I'll do it. And it just hit me. I didn't set up lighting, but I think I'm good under the light here. As long as this bulb doesn't go out. 2 bulbs are going out in the comic book room. And so hopefully this one won't. This is issue number 9 from 1979 with a great tribute there with a great Wally Wood cover on there from from an old sci-fi book. But they do within these within this issue of the book, and again, it's from 1979. They do celebrate the I just forgot the name. You know how I am. I can have all kinds of comics knowledge in my head, but getting it to come out sometimes is difficult. But anyway, this is great, great reference stuff. I can't wait to read the article inside with the MC Gaines. I even remember MC Gaines' name. I can't remember the name. What was the name? Hey, Bulldog, what was the name of the old sci-fi and horror books? The publishing company that published the old sci-fi and horror books that got Walter Wortham, Dr. Wortham all lathered up. Help me with that. I'll think of it here in a moment. But anyway, great copy of the price guide there. And going to go from there to some comic mags. Now, in the 1990s, which a lot of older comics, I remember older comics fans at the time who were where I am now. The 90s, they were just, they were lambasting the art-centric, investor-minded, variant-minded attitude of comics in the day. That's when the variants started. That's when they, in some cases, comic companies would list the name of the artist before the writer, and it became the comic books became more about art than story. And of course, Image Comics is a prime example of that. But I liked a lot of the things that came out of the 90s. Of course, in the 90s, I was just in my 20s. And so I enjoyed I enjoyed what came out. And one of the things that I enjoyed, a guilty pleasure of mine, was Wizard Magazine. And Wizard Magazine, of course, was investor minded, and that it had all those prices for comics and how what comics were hot and what comics were not. And so but they sometimes just turned out some really neat articles and art. And in this case, I pulled a couple of issues for $1 that have one of the Alex Ross fold out covers. This one of the Marvel Heroes. Let me get that in front there. We can see that. And so you've got that. This is going to go up on the wall of the comic room somewhere. I will make room for this to go up. Okay. Many of you will remember that from one of the Wizard magazines. Who knows what number, what issue 42, February 1995. Okay. So can't wait to get that up. And it also had a companion issue. Let me get that out. Why did I still have that in the plastic? I'm still thinking EC Comics. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Bulldog, for that. I was like, dude, when you can remember MC Games, but you can't remember EC Comics, I don't know something's misfiring upstairs. All right. Okay. And yes, my wife is much hotter than my coffee. All right. Here's the other Alex Ross cover here. And just get it all folded out. And so again, these must go up on the wall of the comic room. And they will have a spot. They will find a spot. You have the villains and you have the heroes. I'll probably just line them up side by side, okay, or end to end. But great stuff there. Now, I have been playing with AI lately. I almost wonder if you could give those two pictures to AI and say, hey, do a mashup. Give it to Chat GPT or Microsoft Copilot. Say, hey, do a mashup of these. All right. I also liked in the 90s when the different comics, and it wasn't just Wizard comics or Wizard magazine. It was Hero Illustrated was another one. I liked when they would bag exclusive comics or ash cans, cards and stickers and that kind of thing. In this case, you have Hero, number 6 from 1993. Another great Alex Ross cover on there. Redo of Amazing Fantasy number 15. Okay, hadn't even been opened, and in there you've got a red pit foil comic, ash can comic, mini comic, what do you want to call it, and then a solitaire card there. Solitaire was I think that was not Valiant. That Malibu, was that a Malibu character? I don't remember, but the foil, the red foil pit ash can is what really was what I want out of there. Okay, so there's that. And again, that was $1. These are $1. Hero Illustrated number, that was number 6, I believe. This is number 11, May 1994. Okay, I'm not even sure who does that cover. That might be a Giffen cover, Keith Giffen. Kind of looks like his wild style. Okay, Keith Giffen art. I'm not sure, but has a Dreadstar 1/2 in there by Peter David, Jim Starlin, and Ernie Colon. Okay, so I'm in trouble. There you go. So it almost looks like an Angel Medina cover, but I guess it's Starlin. That was Starlin. But so kind of cool stuff there. Now, these were a couple of dollar comics from. Let's see, do I want to finish? Let me finish with these because these came from the same. Yeah, these came from an antique store, Next Generation's antique store in Tulsa. And I got this because this was 2000 AD presents Dan Dare. Now this was 2000 AD presents is the name of the title, is the title of the comic, and it's number 7. So I don't know if this is a number, if this is a part 1 or what, but I got it because it's by Gary Finley Day or Jerry Finley Day and Dave Gibbons. So there's Dave Gibbons art in there, and I'm going to say fairly early Dave Gibbons art. Okay, before some of his DC work, his Green Lantern work, or maybe just right before. Okay, but wanted to thought that looks good. That looks something I'd want to let's go ahead and check out, because I've always loved Gibbons' work. It's very crisp, very clean, clear artwork. I don't know what I know what Solson Publications is, but this was an independent company. This is Solson Publications number 2. This was in the 80s, I believe. Let me check. This is because I like Talent Search comics, and this was Solson's Comic Talent Star Search. I haven't even looked at this yet. Really kind of an interesting pink cover there, though, almost peach. I think it's number 2. Not a bad. I don't know who the guy is on the front, but that's not a bad illustration. Someone knows what they're doing with the pencil and the ink. But I don't know who all we have in here as far as let's see. You got Rich Buckler work in here. You got the others. That's the only one I know. Gary Brodsky. Well, no, I'm looking at publishers. I'm sorry. Well, you do have a Rich Buckler illustration right off the bat there. It looks like Reagan, a Reagan-like character there. Gary Brodsky Comics. Okay, Gary Brodsky loves comics, and so do I. That's a Rich Buckler image. And trying to find some of the creators' names here, but I cannot. They should make these easy to find. You would think they'd make them. There we go. Okay. Gordon Purcell pencil. Okay, I've heard that name, Gordon Purcell. He went on to do other work. I don't know for Marvel or for DC, but Gordon Purcell I have heard of. And so this is a talent search type comic, looking for the next big breakout stars in comics. Solson Production was, though, it was a independent publisher. And let's see, what do we got next? Bill Lund, story by John Haluski, and pencil art by Bill Lunsford. And so here's some Bill Lunsford art. That looks like just printed maybe from just pencils or maybe light inks. I'm not sure, but very, very sketchy style there. Not much to look at. Yeah, check the year of publication, 1986. It's interesting. I find a lot, and you'll see more. I think Buckler did do Reagan's Raiders, by the way. I think you're right on that, and that's probably what that was reminiscent of, or a piece from, was Reagan's Raiders. I think you're right. That's a good catch. I'd heard of that comic before, but I don't think I've ever seen it. Okay, I think I've just seen the pictures of the cover. But I was going to say, though, I find a lot of 1986 was a good year, I think, for some burgeoning independent comics. Anyway, that's about all. You just had those 2 stories in there. Okay. And you have an advertisement. You have an advertisement for a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles authorized martial arts training manual here, done by Solson. That's interesting. And then you have an ad for the Codename Ninja, which I have the first issue of that book. And that was art by Rich Buckler as well. But that was actually Rich Buckler did some great art for the company. And I think Buckler must just gauging by what work he did. I think he must have had some had a soft spot for the indie comics. I did also grab this. This is another comic. I like number 1s. I like first issues. That includes the first issues of comics trade magazines like Wizard. And this was Inside Comics number 1 from June of 1992. Kind of beat up, but that's okay. The information inside it is still the same. There you go. And of course, the Rob Liefeld illustration of Youngblood on the front. Got some articles about Youngblood, and Liefeld got some articles an interview with Mark Bagley in here, and I got a RoboCop strip, short strip, and just some other, just it's a trade magazine, and various articles on comics and such as that. And then you do get into the price guide. So interesting book. Those are always uh, interesting to read because, as I say, their history. Now it's hard for me to believe that 1992 was over 30 years ago. That's difficult for me. Not because of the implications it has on my age, simply because it doesn't seem like that long ago. It's almost like I went through a wormhole of some type. All right. So a week ago at the Tulsa Flea Market, I picked up a couple of good old books. They're in the same bag and board here, but Captain Venture, which I'd never even heard of, a Gold Key #1 from 1968, the year I was born, and so got it for $3, which not a bad deal for this book, which is in very, I'd say, very good plus to fine minus. But for $3, you're talking about a Silver Age #1 with still some great gloss. Now here's where I wish I would have set up my lamp better, my lighting, but you can see the gloss. There you go. And so haven't checked it out inside yet, anything, but and got some issues here. I'll need to press, and but that's okay. I've pressed before. No water damage, no moisture damage, just warping, a little bit of warping. That's okay. These days, any Silver Age book, any first issue, and you can get for less than the price of a brand new comic. I'll pull the trigger on that one. All right. Fashion has changed much since 2000. You are correct. Archivist Adrift, you are correct. It's my fashion hasn't changed much since 2000, but fashion in and of itself has. Okay. I made a comment where I a few weeks ago wore a tie to church that I had in the 80s, in the 1980s. It was an Expressions tie. I don't know if you remember if you guys are even old enough. I don't know how old you are, but in the 80s, a company called Expressions was a big, they were a big clothing manufacturer, and pulled that tie out. Every once in a while, I pull that tie out. It looks great. It's held its age well. And I've got stuff that still goes with it, so I'll wear it. And generally, people like it. Every once in a while, I get kind of a strange look, but that's okay. All right. I went ahead and, something I've never read. I never read the Ed Brubaker run of Captain America. Never read it. Never read any of the Bucky Captain America issues. So what I've done is got a chance to get these today for 50 cents a piece. And I went ahead and grabbed these, and the covers are just gorgeous. Now, Butch Geist did the interior art, which I've been a fan of Geist ever since his work on the Flash back in the 80s. He did those first few issues of the Flash that Mike Barron wrote, and shortly after that, William Messner Loebs took over, I believe, and at some point, now Greg LaRocque took over the art after Geist. But if you ever get a chance, really wonderful issue of Flash Annual. It's the Flash Annual of 1986, I believe, or I say that it was the same year that the Flash #1 came out, after Crisis on Infinite Earths, when Wally became the Flash. All right. You remember that cover, probably, of Wally, racing the jet that's about to take off, and yellow background. Well, the annual for that year had of course, a story by Mike Barron and Butch Geist, or Gerald Geist. Was it Gerald? Butch Geist sometimes was his name. Jackson. There you go. Jackson Geist. And they had a very different, I've talked about this on my channel before, very different explanation for Wally's speed. And hey, what's going on, Robert? Good to see you. The explanation for Wally's speed from Barron was his chi. He had an overactive chi, and he actually went to a kung fu master to learn to, understand his chi and even to use his chi to strike from afar. It was a very different direction that Barron was going to take the Flash. I would have loved to have seen it play out. But evidently DC put the brakes on that. But you ought to hunt down, I believe it was a 1986 book. You ought to hunt down that Flash Annual #1 because it's still an entertaining story, especially as Divergent. And I know it wasn't William Messner Loebs, who came up with the Speed Force. That was Peter David, Mark Waid. Sorry, Mark Waid, and but it was, and he came up with the Speed Force. But I liked the chi aspect of that. Anyway, where was I going with that? Butch Geist does the interiors for Captain America, the Ed Brubaker run, but I don't know who did the covers. But I got issue 35. Okay, so issue 35. I did get 36, and I'm going to go ahead. I got enough of these. I'm going to go ahead and read them. And hey, thank you very much for the hype. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate the hype. If y'all haven't checked out, if you haven't checked out Robert's page, Robert is actually a, great run from Brubaker. That's what I keep hearing. And more often than not, what I hear is, what, you haven't read Brubaker's Captain America? What's wrong with you? And so I'm going back and getting them. But anyway, Robert though is actually a documentary artist. All right. So check out Robert's, sequential artifacts channel, and I think you'll enjoy it. Issue number 37. I think that's right. Yeah. You didn't pick it up until Bucky took over as Cap. That's where a lot of people, I think, jumped on. Here's 38. Great Red Skull cover. Gotta love the Red Skull cover. All right. Pardon me. Now, I missed 39. Here's issue number 40. Looks like a good SmackDown issue. Hopefully it is. Sometimes the covers represent only a few panels. Hopefully this represents more than that. No spoilers. Issue 41. Who did these covers, by the way? Was it Butch Geist that did these covers? Anybody know? Oh, I think it's Epting. Steve Epting did the covers. I believe that's right. Yeah, I already discussed the FF movie, Robert. That's okay. Go back and look at it. But basically, loved it. Best Marvel movie since Endgame. Okay. Here's issue 42. All right. Found all these for 50 cents. I was pretty happy. 43. So I'm going to go ahead. That was good enough. That was enough to, issue 40, missed issue 44. Here's issue 45. But having found all of these, it's enough to make me go back and start looking for all the Brubaker run. Pretty sure they've cooled off since they were hot. 46. 48. No, 47. Not 48. And 49. Great white cover there. All right. Man, I don't know what. I breathed in some dust or something. And 50. So I was happy to find those. Again, for 50 cents a book, you can't really go wrong on those. All right. Now, a few indies. And I will pick up the indie comics if they're interested. Now, I won't pick up any and every indie comic, even high grade. But I think there's something to be said here about rarity. You're going to say that the Winter Soldier books were getting hot for a while. I think they've cooled off, though, haven't they? I knew they were hot for a long time, and maybe I could see a storyline like this. The way people went on and on about it, I could see it being something that kind of enjoys resurgence of popularity. If it's a good story, and even listen, and that's one of the principles of good comics. If it's a good story and serviceable art, um, a comic can make it. A comic can be successful. But if it's a good story and fantastic art, which I would call the art inside these books, I mean, you're talking about superior art and not just craft from the crafts. I mean, not just from the penciling standpoint, but the colors and the process and everything. So, I mean, when you've got that kind of combination, you're going to have resurgences in those runs, and you should. Now, it's not true in every case. I'm a big Nexus fan, and Nexus, Mike Barron and Steve Rude did amazing things and are still doing. In case you were an old school Nexus fan and you didn't know, they're still turning out Nexus. There was a Nexus newspaper strip that they've been collecting now for a few years, or a couple of years anyway. I've got a couple of trades on it, and I'm going to have to go back and read. I can't read all of it. I won't be able to go back and read everything. I did that just a couple of years ago, but I need to read the newer stuff. But they just wonderful stories and art all the time on that book. Okay, so go back to independence. I won't just buy any independent book, but I will buy a lot of independents from the 80s. If there's something about them that just appeal to me, art style or story, or just sometimes they just got that X factor. This one's from something called RAK or Rack Graphics. It is a 1986 publication, which again, weird about all those 1986 books. So now I'm looking for that. Yeah, 1986, December 1986. This is called Blue. Okay. I found the first. Okay, Boosengar. Okay, that's weird. Boosengar. That right there says Boosengar. Now I can read the gar in the N, but Boos, I guess, is the big blue cat-like creature. Gar is the little reptilian creature here. I like the cover, and I do like that. And the interior art is black and white, but it's good. I enjoy it, and I, independent comics don't always have the same, especially back then. They didn't have the same level a lot of times of art that other comics had, mainstream comics had. I mean, think about the first appearance of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was not some of the greatest art you've ever seen, but it's become iconic. And so who's to argue with it? But I thought that looked, and I did like the back cover illustrations as well. I thought, well, I'll give that a try, and I'll do that with independent comics. Just because I find them fascinating. I find the whole concept and the whole phenomenon of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fascinating. I remember seeing that book on the stands new, and I picked it up and I looked at it, and I was like, pass. Okay, and I didn't have an inkling at the time that people were like snatching up and going, "This is fantastic," but people were. And I come across it in my local comic shop, and just it didn't hit for me. But that's why they make chocolate and vanilla, and it's another way of saying art is subjective. And so what you don't like, somebody else will, and vice versa. All right, so Boosengar, there you go. Now this one fascinated me when I saw this cover, and somewhere I have a memory of seeing or hearing this title, Roachmill. This is from Blackthorn Publishing. It is the first issue, Roachmill, published again December 1986. And what are the odds? Boosengar number 1 was December 1986. Roachmill is December 1986. But check this black and white cover. Okay. Now I don't know the premise, except that this guy is some type of. I mean, there's some. The extra arms are some type of weaponry. All right. There are covers though that hit you when you see them. This is one of those covers that hit me. I was like, whoa, the black on the white and everything, that just a very clean, nice cover. Black and white interior. But here's the first here's the first splash page. Open it. You got your lineup there. Your criminal lineup. I'll let you see that, and then I'll go see who the artist is. But because I'm looking at these fresh, you're looking at these almost as fresh as I am. I already looked inside it when I was at Shadow Mountain today picking it up. But I wanted to share that the fun part of the fun I thought was sharing them fresh with y'all on the live stream. Um, okay, created by Rich Hedden and Tom McQueenie. Never heard of either one of those. But if McQueenie is the artist, then I'm going to say bravo, my good man, because that's some entertaining artwork. Okay, and I'm looking forward to. I don't even know if there was. I'm going to go out on a limb though and say there had to be a second issue to this book. Um, I don't know. I don't have any idea of what I've found here, if I've found anything at all, but it looks very enjoyable to me, and so looking forward to reading this. All right, and that was from Blackthorn Publishing. All right. Um, yeah, I'm like that. I'm like that too, Robert. I don't recall seeing most of these when I pick them up. I don't have recollection of seeing them on the new comics shelves when I was, a younger reader. 1986 was the year I graduated from high school, so I would have been 17, 18. And I was still very much, though I would even then pick up the occasional indie comic at the comic shop. You didn't find them on the, of course, you didn't find them on the grocery store, the comic spinner racks. You didn't find them on the grocery store shelves, drugstore shelves, anything like that. I did pick up an issue of Kirby Genesis #0, published by Dynamite Comics. This would have been within the last decade and a half. I'm guessing. I'm just guessing. If it's been longer than that, I'm going to be, again, it's one of those time warp situations. 2000, what? 2011. Okay. I'm having a hard time with this. Dynamite Comics has been around since 2011. I didn't feel like I needed to recenter myself. That's amazing. Let me do the math. It's 14 years. Okay, I guess I hit it. 10 to 15 years. Why did that seem like? Okay, I've shunted forward in time, I guess. Anyway, let's get back to this instead of my losing my mind here. Okay, Alex Ross and Jackson Herbert are the artists here. Kurt Busiek writing, and you have opens with some kids stargazing there, and looking at the stars and the planets and looking through the telescope. And they start going on. I haven't read this, but they start going on about some of Jack Kirby's, or I should say, those characters influenced by Kirby, done by Ross and the other artist. And then you've got toward the middle and the back, you've got some information on things that Jack Kirby has drawn and where the inspirations for this book came from. Okay. And so interesting stuff. I thought it was good because I love Kirby, and who doesn't? Well, I shouldn't say that. Chocolate and vanilla. All right. And, but great stuff there. And don't judge anybody. I don't judge anyone who says they don't like Kirby. That's fine. Okay. It really is. Now, if you don't like Ditko, not really. Just kidding. Okay. Found something that's interesting. I'm always interested by comics that were done in the modern age, and this one is copyright 1989. But I'm interested in comics done in the modern age with the same newsprint on the cover as you have inside, okay, in the pages. So that's interesting to me. What's interesting about this book, it's called Profolio. And I haven't read the inside. I'm sure it explains all about it somewhere inside. And it actually doesn't on the inside front cover. Usually that's where you find the explanation for such a book. It's called Profolio. It has stories. It has pinup pages. It has both black and white and color stories. Give you an example of the color story that's in the middle here. Some of the art there. Now, I don't know if there's anything special about this book, but I did for this one book only go online because it's so unusual to me. I went online to see what was what about it. I should say I went on eBay because there's no, look, there's a reason why people don't generally talk about Overstreet Price Guide anymore. There's a reason why there's not a Wizard Comics anymore. Um, the reason is if you want to know what a comic's doing, you go on eBay. But even then, you'll hear people say, "Oh, this comic's selling for $100." And what you'll do is you'll go on there and you'll see, well, that's what people are asking for it, but you don't find them selling for that. And you can go up to the filter and you can find, you can find books. You have a way of scrolling down and finding books that, sold, books that have already sold, these books that have sold, and what they got for them. And so there's a difference. Always be aware there's a difference between what people are asking, what people are getting. But people were asking as much as $60, $70 for this book with no explanation as to why. So I'm always dubious about HOT books, hot books, and why and wherefore. And I don't know, people just the way people spend their money. Here's some of the black and white inside. The way people spend their money on comics is fascinating to me sometimes because it's like, where do you get that's that worth that much money? Now there could also be a conversation about what's truly rare. Okay. And here's the back cover illustration. Let me see there. I've got some of the Dynamite stuff over here. Okay. You're going to do so Peter Cannon Thunderbolt. Okay. It's interesting you should say that. It's just been within the last year, Robert. I actually came upon to talk about first appearances and first issues and such. Silver Age first appearances and issues, if you can get them cheap. I recently got it's been a year, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years, but I got the first appearance of Peter Cannon Thunderbolt. I think I ended up getting it for like $8 or $10 at a local con. When I say local, I mean in Missouri, but Missouri is as close, so this particular con was as close to us as closer to us than Tulsa is, even though we're located in Oklahoma. So anyway, but yeah, that'll be cool. I look forward to that video. I need to check out your last couple of videos. I haven't done that yet. Okay. Another independent in the first issue at that. This is Magazine #1. Let me get the publication date. Published 1986. It's bi-monthly, so it doesn't have you saw that video. Good. But it doesn't have the date. It doesn't have the month, but it is a 1986. It's Magazine #1. And I read the comics I buy, guys, just so you understand. I don't buy them because, it's #1. No, that's not it. I like to jump in if I can jump in on the beginning of a story, I'll do that every time, especially for 50 cents. And so, that's the reason for the #1s. It's so unusual a lot of times in the cheap bins you can find, and I believe this is I've never asked because I don't want to offend any of my friends who are comic store owners, but I've always wondered if it's a kind of a ruse that you would take. You're having a $1 book. You have a $1 book box or a 50-cent book box, and you put issues 2 through 6 of a 6-issue limited series in there, but #1 is in the regular price box. It's not a first appearance. It's not it's not the first issue of an incredibly popular run, but it's not in with the cheap comics either. So, but I always wondered if that's a bit of a ruse. Maybe it is. Maybe it's just coincidence. But this, when I find a #1, I get it in the cheap comics. All right, the superhero merchandise catalog. This is from 1979. You probably you older comic fans will remember these. Okay, I'm sorry, 1976. Here's the cover. I believe that's a Joe Kubert cover. Joe Kubert generally was responsible for the artwork on these, and that is definitely a Joe Kubert cover. But it shows Joe Kubert, he's drawing a lot of the things like the Spider-Mobile, the Thor inflatable pillow, and that kind of the things that showed up regularly in the Spider-Man album, the things that showed up regularly in comics ads, which just makes me think I haven't done an ad infinitum in a while, but I love comics ads. Um, thank you for that, Robert. I appreciate it. I do try to read the comics I buy, and here's just an example of some of the stuff you find, and you'll know that you'll recognize these from you know many comics ads over the years in your childhood or maybe before. Okay, like I said, I don't know how old everybody is on here, but and then there's always here you go, here's the Mego, and man, that looks like all the Mego figures. There, you got the DC ones. I'm pointing with the wrong finger. You got the DC ones up here, and then you got the Marvel ones. I think they just about show all of them there. But you got some Star Trek paraphernalia over here. So these were neat. These were just nothing but ad books of all the really cool stuff that you could buy. I would love to get some of the old Marvel blacklight posters. All right, next is I believe that this line of comics were published by the same outfit that did, I believe, Classic Comics or Classics Illustrated. Yeah, it's Classics Illustrated publication this one from April 1961. This is For Gold and Glory. This is actually in decent condition. Needs some perhaps some pressing. I would try dry pressing first, or dry pressing, cool pressing first, and then just kind of seeing what that can do without heat. Oh yeah, because this is a glue square bound spine, so you never want to apply heat to the glue, and those square bound spines will melt right away. Some examples of the art in it, and these were historical, even more so in some ways than the Classics Illustrated, because they were done totally in narrative form. But interesting books, and I always like picking these up when I find them. And I found a lot of them in Shadow Mountain boxes, for 50 cents to $1. So those are great. For Gold and Glory. And they're part of the series called The World Around Us. All right. So educational comics, you got to love them. I love them more as an adult than I ever did as a kid. But there you go. All right. Got a Justice League of America number 252. Just because I wanted to read that era, some of that era of Justice League when Batman was leading this poor man's version of the JLA with Vixen and Vibe and Gypsy and Elongated Man. Martian Manhunter isn't poor man's JLA, and neither is Batman, but the rest of them quite definitely are. All right. And then I found again, going back to the idea of finding all issues of a limited series, found the entire, I've never read this, but I know it's a mini-series written by Brian Michael Bendis, and each issue features a different art team. Issue number 1 of The Man of Steel, which I don't know the first names of a lot of these artists, but Rice and Prado are the artists for issue number 1. Issue number 2 is Shaner and Rude and Sinclair. Well, let me get there we go. All right. Maybe I ought to do it this way. Issue number 3, Bendis and Sook and Sinclair. Ryan Sook, I think that's right. Okay. Issue number 4, Bendis and McGuire. Oh, I hope that's Kevin McGuire. There you go. Number 5, Bendis and Hughes, and I hope that's Adam Hughes. My goodness. I hope that's Adam Hughes. And issue number 6, Bendis and Fabok. I can't remember his first name, but great artist, very dramatic artist, realistic style. And so, again, $3 for a 6-issue series from just the last few years. All right. Okay. Found anytime I can, I'll pick these up as well. Good solid reprint. Let's see what year. 1998 reprint of Piracy, Number 7, another old EC book. The EC book. All right, there you go. Cannot believe I forgot that. All right. This was a again. I said this was an eclectic haul. This was I had no earthly idea I'd be coming home with this, but I've been lately going back and for the first time ever watching straight through Star Trek: The Next Generation. I went back recently and watched. I'm a big Star Trek fan, not a big Star Wars fan, but a big Star Trek fan. Ryan Sook, thank you. All right. I'm not a big Star Wars fan, but I love Star Trek and the original series. I love the movies. I don't love the very first Star Trek, the motion picture. Very slow, visually entertaining, but just very slow story wise. Wrath of Khan is to this day, and just great stuff, and I like most of the Star Wars movies, and so I started watching The Next Generation. I never watched it in the 90s. And I just picked this up on a whim. This was the first time I think that Marvel, no, this wasn't the first time. Second time that Marvel had the rights for the Star Trek comics. This was from 1997 because they had the little Marvel and Paramount comics up there. This is Star Trek Early Voyages. And I believe that's not Captain Kirk. I believe that's Captain Pike on the cover there. Okay. So I loved something about the cover. Patrick Zurcher did the cover. Loved the coloring of it. I love the art, everything. And so I thought, you know what? I'm just going to pick that up and I'm going to read that. Here's an example of, give you an example of some of the art inside. And so nice. You got that great, got a dramatic storytelling style there that breaks panel borders and that kind of thing. And so, so it looks entertaining to me. So I can't wait to read that. And then, of course, not being into new comics for a long time, even though I am actually actively starting on a couple of new series. Talked about that last video. But I came upon this Justice League Gods and Monsters. I don't even know what this event was. This, I think, must have been some of these were one shots, because here's a number 1 with Superman. And it's a different story than the other number 1 I have here. So I'm not sure if these were one shots or what, but they were written by J.M. DeMatteis and Bruce Timm with the art. Okay. Bruce Timm doing the art inside. I don't know who did the cover. But here's another number 1 with Batman. Now remember, these are called Gods and Monsters, and Batman does not look friendly right there. Okay. That is not a friendly Batman. That is not your friendly neighborhood Batman. In fact, he looks to be a vampire. All right. But it's a totally different story inside. And so it's got me wondering. I thought, well, first issues, I'll jump on those. But then I found this issue number 3, and this was all that I found in all of those boxes. But I thought, okay, something to seek out. This is again, J.M. DeMatteis and Bruce Timm, and so there's the cover of number 3. And so I'm guessing that you've got some origin stories and some one shots, and then you've got the actual series. Here's some of the Bruce Timm art inside. So I don't know if anybody know anything about this series, Justice League Gods and Monsters. All right. I also bought, we're finishing it up here, got 3 more. I like the flashback comics that Marvel did from the late 90s. And so it may have been mid 90s, but I'm thinking late 90s. And so this is Flashback Ghost Rider. This is one of the few I didn't read. And so that'll be a fun read. And the thing that gets me is so before Blaze, before Catch, there was another. This may be an affordable first. Okay, so maybe coming back and doing an affordable first. I have an affordable first by Steve Ditko coming up soon, and one that probably has flown under your radar. And then this is a couple of Universe X specials. This one, with art by Brent Anderson, which I've always liked Brent Anderson's art, Anderson is a solid, realistic style artist, and I'm hoping that's the Anderson. Yeah, Brent Anderson. And so this is a Fantastic Four book, and so here's some art from here's some interior art from the book. But I've always liked Brent Anderson's work. Brent Anderson, if to give you some reference, if you know the there's some great Doctor Doom panels here. If you know the work X-Men, God Loves, Man Kills, the graphic novel from the 80s, that was Brent Anderson. And Brent Anderson is an artist's artist. He also has done one or two Batman graphic novels. In fact, I believe he did. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he did Son of the Demon, though I feel like I'm wrong about that. I feel like it was another one who was kind of out of the Neil Adams. I'm going to take it back. That was not Brent Anderson. I did not say that. That was somebody else. I'm going to think of it here in a minute. All right, and then another Universe X special. That was a Universe X special, in case I didn't say that. And I wanted to include that anyway, since just talked about the Fantastic Four movie. Oh, Gargling Bulldog, you never seen that Ghost Rider? I never had either until today, so good luck. Good luck hunting. Good hunting. You can find it. Go out there and rattle those boxes. Shake those boxes. All right. Cap, just called Cap. Jim Krueger story and art. Alex Ross, of course, cover painter. Oh, Thomas Yates pencils. Okay, well, I like a good Yates yarn. I like Tom Yates artwork. And so there's the opening splash. Okay. And these were usually, I remember reading the Universe X stuff, and it was, the stories were okay, but they seemed to be just kind of big and long and drawn out. These one shots generally stood pretty well, I think. If memory serves, they stood pretty well alone. Okay, so got some good flashback action going there with Captain America versus the Red Skull, and so got some neat, very moody stuff there with the color changes, the reds and the blues, and so great stuff there. So anyway, there you go. It's been an interesting couple of weeks with some pickups, some various pickups, and again, I like the eclectic stuff. I like picking up books of all kinds. One of the wonderful things about this hobby is there's there's great stuff out there that I've been reading comics for 57. I started reading comics when I was like 5 or 6. And so over 50 years, I've been reading comics. I'll say actively collecting comics. I'll say I started actively collecting by 13. So, collecting for 47 years. There's still stuff I'm discovering that I knew nothing about, and that I think is great. Stuff that I think is great. And here's another thing: new comics. There are some I think new comics are starting to come back in quality. And I'm not into predictions or anything like that, but I believe new comics are going to come back. I believe there's only so far the political stuff can go. There's only so far that publishers can try to get readers to accept certain tropes and certain beliefs and that kind of thing. And I think if nothing else, history has shown now that when you publish something or produce something and fans don't like it, insulting the fans doesn't work. It's not going to improve your business. Comics have to get back to consistently good stories. And here's the thing, and I'll end with this because I don't want to preach, but I'm a longtime fan. I'm invested in this hobby and in this medium. And if new comics were consistently good, good stories, at least serviceable art, but consistently good stories, good characterization that fans came back each issue to read what happens next. If we could go back to that and stop being driven by variants and by events and that kind of, if that happened, that would feed everything else. That would feed the back issue market. That would feed the original art market. That would feed the variant market. If you're into variants, if comics were, hey, what's up, Sleepy Reader? If comics were consistently good, new comics were consistently good, it would feed everything else. It would feed everything else. And so you wouldn't need the gimmicks and the events to carry comic stores. You could just do it on the fair itself, on the material that's being produced. And so anyway, and then there's other things they would have to do. I think the price point, y'all have heard me say before, I'd love to see comics go back to newsprint. Still to this day, some of the best comics ever produced in the medium were newsprint comics. So anyway, that's just, but the first thing has to be go back to good stories, good stories, good characterization, make the readers care again, and no more preaching, no more, none of that stuff. Just go back to get, comics are supposed to be escapism. Comics are supposed to be entertainment. I don't know where they got the idea that comics have to preach. Now, if it happens that an entertaining story can get an important point across, great. But you don't shoehorn it, you don't force it, you let it happen. And that's it. I won't say anymore. But anyway, that's it. Hey, thanks for watching. I'm glad you guys did this. I haven't done very many. More one and done too. Exactly. Sleepy. More one and dones. There have been some, and I can't think of any right off the top of my head right now, but there have been, of course, a lot of older, that's what a lot of older, the golden age, of course, and even a lot of silver age series were built on, was the done and ones or one and dones. And every story was was a story with a beginning, middle, and an end. That made the 2 and 3 and even 4-parters that much more special, because you were manic to get that next issue, man. And I hear what you're saying, Robert. I think they should make specials, do newsprint for regular comics. And then if you have a comic that's the creators and the material, are going to live up to something better than normal, better than usual, then you can pull out what we used to call Baxter paper or pull out the fancy paper. But, just like the graphic novels had and the bookshelf format books had, but the regular comics were newsprint, and I'd like to see them go back to that. But it's got to start with great characters and great stories again. Comics have to be story driven, character driven, and driven by that alone. So anyway, that's it. That's all I got to say. I won't preach anymore. And hey, thanks for hanging out with me tonight, guys. I'm going to do this more often. I like the live stream format. And but anyway, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching 4-Color Commentary, and appreciate it, Bulldog. Appreciate it very much. And thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time. See if I can figure out how to get out of here.